Hello everyone. So let us start the new chapter, that is breathing and exchange of gases. Now we know that all the organisms will be requiring the respiration, will be requiring the energy for the survival, and this energy is produced by the breaking down of food substances. As we have already seen in digestion, that whatever the food substance we take in will be required for producing the energy. And by utilizing those food substances, we'll be able to do all the functions which we carry out in our whole lifetime. Okay, so these food substances which are absorbed after digestion is taken to the different parts of the body and each and every cell. Over there, this food substances, the simplest form of food substances, are broken down in the presence of oxygen, and that reaction is called as respiration. So the respiration is basically a chemical process where the substance will be reacting with an oxygen to produce energy, like in the form of ATPs particularly. But before production of energy, before production of ATP, this substances basically has to transferred up to the up to the cellular level, which is taken care by the different transporting system. Okay, mainly the blood and the lymph. But as we know that this respiration of this breaking down of the substances will be also requiring another substance, that is the oxygen. And this oxygen is basically present in atmosphere, has to be taken to all the parts of the body, or we can say all the cells, through a process. So we can say there has to be a process which is responsible for taking the oxygen inside the body from the atmosphere. At the same time, it will also require a process where the CO2, the main byproduct or the waste which is formed during the respiration or during the metabolic reactions, that CO2 has to be also released out of the body. So these both phenomena, that is taking up the oxygen from the atmosphere and removing the CO2 from the body into the atmosphere, is basically physical phenomena where no chemical reaction is taking place, but exchange of gases is taking place. And this exchange of gases is called as breathing, and all the different functions, all the different structures related to breathing, all the functions, the disorders will be studied in this chapter. Okay, so let us start. The breathing can be divided into three main stages. We can say a scientist named G.S. Carter divided the breathing into three steps. We can say respiration was divided into three steps. I have a clear idea that respiration is quite different from the breathing. Breathing is a physical phenomena, while the respiration is a chemical phenomena. But altogether we can call them as respiration. Okay, so here we can see the respiration involves three steps. That is, first one is external respiration. External respiration indicates the gaseous exchange between the environment. So all the gases are present in environment. So external respiration involves the gaseous presence between the environment, exchange between the environment and the lungs. Okay, so first step is the external respiration, where the gases which are present in the environment is getting exchanged with the lungs. Okay, second is the internal respiration, which is the gaseous exchange between the lungs and the blood, and between the blood and tissue cells. So once the gas is taken from the atmosphere into the lungs, now it will be transferred from this lungs to the blood, and then this blood will be transported to different parts of the body, or we can say different tissues and cells, and over there it will be then further transported to the cells or tissue. So here at two surfaces this exchange is taking place. At two different surfaces this exchange is taking place. That is, first one is from lung to blood, and the second one is from blood to tissue. Okay, so this both exchanges are basically considered as an internal respiration. And the third step is a cellular respiration. So once these gases are present getting inside the cell, once they are into the cell, now they will start oxidizing the food substances. Due to which they will release energy. And this is called as cellular respiration. So in whole we can say the breathing or the respiration mainly involves three steps, that is external respiration, exchange between the lungs and the environment. Gases exchange between the environment and the lungs. Second is the internal respiration. That is the gases exchange at two different surfaces. That is the between lungs and blood, and between blood and tissue. And the third respiration step is the cellular respiration, where actually the oxidation of the organic food components take place, which releases energy in the form of ATP. So that was about the three major steps involved in the respiration. Now, next what we see is the different types of respiration. Let us see the different types of respiration. So you would have studied the same thing in the lower class as well. Different types of respiration is basically studied by you in the lower class as well. That majorly we can divide this respiration into two types on the basis of requirement of oxygen. So if an organism, if in respiration, if oxygen is not required, you just note it down that if oxygen not required. I'm not saying in the absence of oxygen. Sometimes what may happen, many people will be saying it's in anaerobic respiration occurs in absence of oxygen. So it's not like that. So anaerobic respiration, first type of respiration itself says that, and it means no. Aerobic, it means where the oxygen is required. So anaerobic, where the oxygen is not required. So the first type of respiration, that is anaerobic respiration, is the type of respiration where oxygen is not required. Keep it in mind, it's not in the absence of oxygen. It is oxygen may be present, but may be present in the surrounding, but it will not be requiring it. It will not be utilizing it. Okay, and such respiration is called as anaerobic respiration. The main characteristic of the anaerobic respiration is, first one, it does not require oxygen. Second, this process occurs in cytoplasm. Second characteristic is that this process of anaerobic respiration will be occurring in the cytoplasm of the cell. So wherever it is present, it will be occurring always in cytoplasm. It is not take place into the mitochondria particularly. Okay, so it is taking place in the cytoplasm. And next, it will produce less energy compared to the aerobic respiration. So when we compare this energy produced by the aerobic respiration, so the anaerobic respiration will producing much less energy compared to the aerobic respiration in the form of ATP. Okay. Now, due to incomplete oxidation of the carbon, so here we have to understand there's a partial oxidation. So partial oxidation means, so suppose a glucose is there, so glucose has got 6 carbon. When this glucose get oxidized, so it can undergo a complete oxidation or it can go partial oxidation. So when a 6 carbon sugar, that is glucose, if it is broken down into 6 carbon and it is basically oxidized in such a manner that 6 carbon dioxides are released. So suppose a single glucose is broken down into, or is basically oxidized in such a manner that 6 carbon dioxide is released. It means that every carbon of that glucose got oxidized. It means all the 6 carbons of that glucose got oxidized. Okay, and such type of oxidation is called as complete oxidation. But suppose out of 6 carbon, only 3 carbon dioxides are formed. So over there, the remaining carbon are not we can say oxidized. So such condition is called as partial oxidation. And whenever this partial oxidation occurs, whenever partial oxidation of the organic substance occurs, it will release less amount of energy. So partial oxidation will be releasing comparatively less amount of energy. Okay, now the end products of anaerobic respiration, end products of this anaerobic respirations are the lactic acid, alcohol, and butyric acid, acetic acid. There are different other types of anaerobic products as well, but mainly we can see lactic acid and the alcohol is the commonly found. The lactic acid fermentation or lactic acid is found in the anaerobic respiration in the case of human muscles. Okay, so whenever the muscle is basically under high strain, so whenever a person is carrying out the severe exercise, so in that case what will happen, the muscle will start forming this lactic acid due to absence of oxygen, or we can say due to less amount of oxygen. So
that will responsible for causing pain as well. So this lactic acid is formed during the exercise. Similarly, this lactic acid is also formed during the formation of curd. Okay, and apart from this, sometimes alcohol may be formed. So alcohol is also a byproduct of this anaerobic respiration. Where it is found, it is mainly found during the yeast. It is mainly found in the yeast. So yeast will be carrying out this anaerobic respiration, where the byproduct will be formed as an alcohol. Okay, so this was the anaerobic respiration. The characteristic, that is, oxygen is not required, occurs in cytoplasm. Comparatively less amount of energy is released, around 2 ATPs. You can write it down. Around 2 ATPs only released, and the byproducts, the products will be. So these products will be organic acids, particularly like lactic acid, or we can say the organic compound like lactic acid and alcohol. Okay, now where do they occur? So they are mainly found in the RBC. Okay, RBC muscles during the high exercise. Internal parasites, there are some parasites which will be found in the internal body parts. Okay, so they will be also carrying out anaerobic respiration because they were not exposed to air over there. So example, stepworm, ascaris, the parasites of the intestine. Okay, that was about the anaerobic respiration. Now the next is the aerobic respiration. Next one is the aerobic respiration. Name itself suggests it is just almost opposite of the anaerobic. It is just opposite of the anaerobic. Example. So first of all, characteristic, the oxygen is must. So in the absence of oxygen, this type of reaction cannot be possible. So in the absence of respiration, in the absence of oxygen, this reaction or this type of respiration is not possible. So oxygen is must over here. Next is complete oxidation, as I told you. So whenever this substance is taken inside, it will lead to formation of equal amount of carbon which is present in that substance. So suppose a carbon compound that is containing 6 carbon, it's a glucose, is oxidized. So if it is undergoing the aerobic respiration, it will be responsible for formation of 6 carbon dioxide. So it means every carbon of this glucose has got oxidized. And such phenomena is called as complete oxidation. Such a phenomena is called as complete oxidation. Okay, that's occur in the aerobic respiration. Okay. Now, this aerobic respiration contains 2 steps. It is basically taking place into mainly 2 steps, where the first step is called as glycolysis. The first step is called as glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm. So you have to keep it in mind, the type of respiration mein, the aerobic respiration which occurs in 2 steps. The first step is the glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm. Now this step of glycolysis, glyco means glucose, lysis means to break out, to break it up. So this breaking down of glucose, or the first step, we can say glycolysis, is a common step found in the anaerobic and aerobic. You may write it down. This breaking down of glucose is the first step, and this first step is the common in both, that is the aerobic and anaerobic. You have to keep it in mind. So it's common step between the aerobic and anaerobic. And the second step, where this byproduct of this first step, mostly the pyruvate, will be used for further oxidation. That's called as Krebs cycle. You will understand that. Okay, Krebs cycle, you will study that in the respiration physiology of. Okay, so here the breaking down of this further oxidation will take place in mitochondria. So the whole aerobic respiration requires 2 steps. The first step is present in the cytoplasm, while the second step will be present in the mitochondria. Okay, next is comparatively more energy is released. Comparatively more energy. Where are we comparing with? What we are comparing with? We are comparing with anaerobic respiration. So when we compare with the anaerobic respiration over here, it will release high amount of energy. Like the anaerobic respiration was able to release only around 2 ATPs. In anaerobic respiration, that only 2 ATPs were formed. While if we see the aerobic respiration, we can get around 36 or 38 ATPs. So that's a quite good number of ATPs are formed during aerobic respiration. Okay, now as we have seen, it will respond for complete oxidation. So the final products will be carbon dioxide. The final product will be carbon dioxide and water. So no other intermediate hydrocarbons are formed like the alcohol and lactic acid and all that. Okay, so it will be responsible for formation of carbon dioxide and water. mainly found in most of the animals and plants. It is mainly found in most of the animals and the plants. Okay, next, again, it can be of two types. So that was about the aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. I hope you got it. Next is aerobic respiration, is the one which we are going to discuss particularly today. And this aerobic respiration can be of two types. That is depending on the situation. So it can be direct respiration or it can be indirect respiration. It can be direct respiration or indirect respiration. In the case of direct respiration, what will happen? The environmental oxygen is exchanged with the carbon dioxide. The environmental oxygen will be exchanged with the carbon dioxide of the body cells without special respiratory organs. So here in this case, there are no special respiratory organs are present in an organism. So here, without special respiratory organs and without the aid of blood. So in the case of direct respiration, any respiratory organs like the lungs and gills and trachea will not be required. It will not require the blood as well. So here, no special respiratory organs or blood is basically taking part. So here, example, aerobic bacteria. So from where do they carry out this breathing? So they will be carrying out the breathing simply by the cellular exchange, or we can surface exchange. The cells which are present on the surface or the surface of a cell will be exchanging the gases by simple diffusion. That is, from the gases will be moving from higher concentration to lower concentration. So mainly it is found in the monochromatic cells like the aerobic bacteria. The protista is again the unicellular structure. The plants. So if we see the plants, we don't have any particular blood-like structure, blood-like any tissue, and we also don't have any type of lungs or anything like that. Okay, so in that case, each and every part of the plant will be diffusing the oxygen and the carbon dioxide by itself. Okay, and hence these are called as direct respiration. It is also found in the smaller animals like sponges, nidigenous flatworms, and most of the arthropods as well. Most of the arthropoda will be also having the same type of phenomena most of the time. Okay, next is indirect respiration. So in the case of indirect respiration, the organism will be supplied with a proper respiratory organ and blood vessels and even the blood. Okay, so indirect respiration will be involving the lungs, where the lungs will be responsible. Mostly the lungs. It may be other parts as well, like gills. It may be lungs, right? So what will they do? This exchange organ, mainly the lungs, will be responsible for taking the oxygen in and bringing out the carbon dioxide. So the exchange of gases will be taken care by these lungs, and then it will be distributed in the whole body. With the help of another system, that is blood. Okay, so here it will be involving the respiratory organs like lungs, and it will be also requiring the blood. It will also require the blood for this movement, for this transportation of oxygen and carbon dioxide to both the surfaces. Okay, from lungs to different parts of the body, while similarly from different parts of the body to lungs. That is about the direct and indirect respiration. Okay, so here we can see some groups of animals and their respiratory structure. So depending on the habitat of animal, where it is found, and this structural availability, structural flexibility, we can see the different animal groups will be having different type of respiratory structure. Like the protozoans, the one which are unicellular in nature, these protozoans will be having the specific structure, that's plasma lemma, which is basically limited to its plasma membrane, where the diffusion of gases will take place by simple diffusion. Similarly, the pellicle is a type of membranous proteinish membrane, you can say, present on the outer membrane present on the surface of the paramecium particularly. So here these both are basically the surface membrane. So here this unicellular eukaryote will be carrying out the exchange of gases by the simple diffusion of the gases across the membrane. Next is the sponges. It's a lower animal. Okay, and over here, even the plasma membrane of each of the cells. So every cell will be carrying out their respiration by themselves. Every cell of the body of sponges will be responsible for carrying out the exchange of gases by themselves. Okay. Next is Cnidarian. Cnidarian is also a type of lower animals where the body walls of the animals, the body wall will be coming in contact with the external environment, which will be exchanging the gases with them. Okay, so example, Hydra. Next is Ctenophora. Ctenophora is basically again type of lower animal. Here also the body wall will be responsible for exchanging gas with the surrounding. Now this Platyhelminthes will be of different types, that is free living, that is it is basically not dependent on any other organism for its survival. So example, Plantria. So Platyhelminthes will be of two types, that is free living. If it is free living, then it will be having a respiratory structure which is body surface. So it will be basically depending on the surface. It will be carrying out this breathing or exchange of gases from the surface of the body. Next, the parasite. Parasitic Platyhelminthes will be example liver fluke, tapeworm. So this tapeworm and liver will be particularly carrying out this anaerobic respiration. It will be carrying out the anaerobic respiration where it does not require the exchange of gases. It does not require the exchange of oxygen particularly. Okay. So that's about the Nemathelminthes, that is free living, or it can be parasites. Example, Ascaris. Now the next is annelids. Annelids are example earthworm, Nereis leech. So again they will be also carrying out the respiration or breathing through the body wall, and mostly they will be having the cutaneous respiration. Cutaneous respiration. Next is arthropods. Arthropods are the one which are basically consisting of lot of diversity of organisms, and due to having different diversity of organisms in the same kingdom, in the same in the same class, what may happen? There will be sorting of there will occur a specific type it will be of different types of respiratory surfaces as well. So in the case of crayfish and the prawn, they'll be having the gills. Gills are the specific structures responsible for exchange of gases, mainly found in the aquatic animals. It may also be found in amphibians as well. So the gills, okay, in the crayfish and prawn. Insects, centipedes, millipedes, ticks, peripatus. The different type of insects would be mainly having the tracheal system. That is tracheal system of respiration, where the body of the insects will be having some lateral openings called as spiracles, and through these spiracles, these gases will be entering within the body through the trachea, and it will be also releasing outside the body through the trachea. Okay, so that was about the insects particularly. Next is the insects like scorpions, spiders. This will be containing a specifically lung-like structure called as book lungs. Okay. Next is mites. Mites will be responsible for carrying out respiration by the cutaneous. Cutaneous means by the skin itself. And then the lumulus will be responsible for exchange of gases through the book gills. It's a type of gills also. So animal groups we have seen, and different type of respiratory structure within that is also seen. Okay, so next there are still some defining. So next is mollusca. Mollusca will be basically it will be having a gills like structure, that is Lentidaria. Okay, and also one pulmonary sac like lung is also present, which is called a pila. Example, pila. Okay, then is echinodermis. Example, starfish. So these are the one which will be having a specific type of structure called as tube feet, which is called as tube feet. It is also dermal branchi. Okay, so it will be responsible for taking the gases inside the body and releasing it outside. The harmful gases will be releasing outside. Hemichordata, we can see the pharyngeal wall. So when we move from lower to higher, the complexity of respiratory structure is getting increased. So hemichordata and chordata will be having pharyngeal wall, which will be also increasing euchorochordata, cephalochordata, and vertebrates. Within the vertebrates, cyclostome, fishes, tadpoles, etc. will be carrying out the respiration with the help of gills. Will be carrying out the respiration with the help of gills. Okay, and the amphibians are one where the skin and the buccopharyngeal cavity, this and the lungs, these all three are basically responsible for carrying out the respiration. All three carrying out respiration for this amphibians. Okay, example frogs. So you can see here, they can basically show different type of respiration, and hence the okay. Next is reptiles, with birds and mammals. These all are the groups of organisms which will be having lungs as the respiratory structure. So you would have seen that these lungs are basically even used up for the different purposes. It can be so mainly they are used for the respiration, mainly exchange of gases from surrounding to the inside the body. Next, the human respiratory system. So what we have done the different groups of respiratory structures found in the animals. Next, we have types for respiration, and the respiration, what is it, and external, internal, and the cellular respirations. What you have seen, respirations types: aerobic, anaerobic, external, internal, and side web, and the different groups of animals found in the having different type of respiratory structure. Next is a human respiratory system. Next will be consisting the human respiratory system. Okay, now when we see human respiratory system, it mainly involves the respiratory tract. It mainly involves the respiratory tract and the lungs. Now when we see respiratory tract, it will be involving the passage of, how we can define the respiratory tract. So we can define the respiratory tract as a passage of, write it down, as a passage from which the environmental air enters into lung. The respiratory tract is a passage from which environmental air enters into lung. So whatever the gas is present in the environment can get entered into the lungs through a particular passage, and this passage will be consisting the external layers. Okay, these are the external layers. Okay, and after this external layers, it will be going to the vestibule. Vestibule will be consisting two part: the opening of this nasal passage, we will see that, and then the nasal chamber, nasopharynx, larynx, then trachea, bronchial tree, respiratory, and then the alveoli of lungs. So it's a complicated, and it's a big tract from where these gases are being passed, consisting of external layer. The opening will be from the external layers. Okay, next is the vestibule, which will be having the opening of mouth, opening of this nasal cavity, then nasal chamber, then nasopharynx, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchial tree, respiratory, and then the alveoli of lungs. Okay, so first of all, see respiratory. We have seen what is the first one. We will see the external nostrils. So this is the part of the respiration which you can observe from the external side, and hence called as external nostrils. In human, two separate external nostrils are present. Mainly in the humans, it is two sets of external nostrils are present, and it is called as a dihiatus condition. So what is dihiatus condition? The condition where the two separate external nostrils are present. Next is the nasal cavity. The external nostrils opens into vestibula, which is present in the anterior part of the nasal passage. So what is vestibulum? It's just a part from which anterior part of the nasal passage. Nasal septum. It's a nasal septum is a structure which is responsible for separating the nasal cavity to the buccal cavity. Okay, so this is the part where it will be separated from the buccal cavity and the nasal cavity. So here the nasal septum. Let me see. Let us see what is the nasal septum. So it's the anterior part. The anterior part of the nasal septum is basically made up of hyaline cartilage, while the posterior part is basically made up of ethmoid bone. Okay, so anterior part is basically made up of
hyaline cartilage, while the posterior part is basically made up of ethmoid bone. Now turbinals. Now then after nasal septum, those bony projections in the nasal chambers, there are some bony projections in the nasal chambers which will be called as turbinals, which are called as turbinals. So what are turbinals? These bones have bony projections which are present in the nasal chambers. So nasal chambers will be composed of bones, and these bony structures, bony projections are called as turbinals, which are of three types. Dorsal surface, that is present on the nasal bone, called as nasoturbinals. Second, ventral surface, that is the maxilla bone, called as maxilloturbinals, and the lateral surface, called as ethmoid bone, called as inferior turbinals. Okay. So what are the function of turbinals? These turbinals are responsible for making the when the air is inspired through this passage, the temperature becomes same as the body. So suppose the outer temperature is 35 degrees Celsius, or we can say the outer body temperature is basically 20 or 45 degrees Celsius in a very hot summer. So still the body temperature will be remaining the 37. So whenever whatever the hot air is coming inside, it will be filtered, and the temperature will be decreased. Okay, and hence it is called as air conditioning. So this passage, respiratory tract, is also responsible for air conditioning, or we can say decreasing the temperature, okay, of the gases which is taken inside. The complete nasal passage is divided into three structural and functional regions. So it is mainly divided into three different structural and functional regions. Okay, so these are the vestibular region, the respiratory region, and the olfactory region. Vestibular region, respiratory region, and olfactory region. So vestibular region again contain two parts. That is the anterior part of nasal passage. It is the anterior part of the nasal passage, which are responsible for secreting the responsible for secreting the sebaceous gland, and it will be also having the hair. So it is composed of skin, and so derivatives of skin are also present. So these hairs and sebaceous glands are the derivatives of the skin. Now the hair of vestibular region is responsible for filtering the inspired air. So whatever air is inspired, okay, will be filtered by this vestibular region. So it is responsible for filtration as well. Okay. Next is respiratory region. So after this vestibular region, the second region present over there is the respiratory region. So epithelial lining of the maxilloturbinals and the inferior turbinals. So okay, so here we can see this respiratory regions are made up of a specific type of cells, PSCAGE. It means PSCAGE. It means pseudo-stratified columnar glandular epithelium, ciliated glandular epithelium. Okay, so pseudo-stratified ciliated glandular epithelium. So these are the cells which are present in the respiratory region particularly. Okay, now it will be also having the goblet cells. So some of these epithelial cells will be having independently present goblet cells which are responsible for secreting the mucus. And this mucus is responsible for keeping the surfaces moist. Keeping this surface moist. Okay, and it's also responsible for air conditioning and filtering out. The hair and this mucus will be responsible for filtration. So whatever the dust particles are coming inside the body, they get filtered by the hair which are present in this respiratory tract. Next is the olfactory region. This is the region which is called as neurosensory region. It means they will be having a sensory epithelium. Neurosensory epithelium. Okay, and over these internal layers we have seen. Internal layers will be also called as cornea. Okay, so internal layers are the nasal chambers which opens into the nasopharynx through this internal layers. Okay, that was about the external structure. Next is the pharynx. So after this nasal cavity, it comes the pharynx. So pharynx, due to presence of palate in mammals. Palate is the separation, it's basically roof of vocal cavity and the floor of the nasal cavity. So
pharynx is the roof of buccal cavity and the floor of the nasal cavity. It is responsible. It is basically anterior part of the pharynx is divided into two chambers. Anterior part is divided into two chambers, that is on nasopharynx and oropharynx. Okay, that is nasopharynx or oropharynx. So posteriorly both these chambers open into pharynx, so that pharynx is a common chamber for food. So once we basically see the nasopharynx or oropharynx, what happens? Dorsal part will be the nasopharynx, the upper part is the nasopharynx, and the ventral part, that is lower part, is the oropharynx. So we know that at posteriorly part, the posterior part of this both chambers open in the pharynx. So open in the pharynx, and so pharynx is a common chamber for both food and air. So this nasopharynx will be responsible for taking the air, while the oropharynx is responsible for taking the food. And the pharynx is a common chamber for both food and air, and hence it is a place where this both will be. It is a common place in the both the tract. Okay. Now it has got gullet and glottis. You have to keep it in mind. What is gullet? So gullet is a home. It's a opening. It's the opening of the pharynx, we can say. So it's a gullet is the opening through which the pharynx open into esophagus. Thus the pharynx will be opening into esophagus. This esophagus will be leading the food to the stomach. Okay. So gullet is that opening. The gullet is that opening which is opening of pharynx, which is getting open into the getting open into the esophagus, and hence responsible for taking the food within the stomach. Next is glottis. So glottis, it's an open in larynx. Again, it opens into larynx or trachea particularly. It will be opening into trachea. This trachea is a part of the lungs which is responsible for taking the air inside, the lungs. So in the case of humans, basically gullet will be responsible for opening of pharynx into esophagus, while glottis is the one which is having opening into trachea, So this sometime what may happen during the feeding, during the eating the food substances, so the pharynx will be open, so the food substance which we take in can get into the trachea as well, and when it gets into trachea, it may get into the lungs, and that may lead to different type of complexity. So to avoid this, there's an opening called as glottis. That is glottis opening of the trachea, or we can say larynx. This glottis is the opening of the trachea or larynx, but this glottis may receive the food sometime because the opening is common almost. So we can say this, there has to be some sort of measure by which the glottis can be remain closed. That is called as epiglottis. So what is epiglottis? Epiglottis is a muscular flap-like structure responsible for covering this glottis, glottis. Okay, that is about the pharynx. So you can see the upper part is the nasopharynx and the lower part is the oropharynx, and between them we will have the palate. Once the food get inside, this food will be getting into gullet, which is opening of the digestive tract, while the glottis is the opening of the trachea, which is just, we can see, anterior to this tract, and opening just before the opening there will be a flap-like structure. Here you can see, which is responsible for closing it for the while when the food is taken inside. During this epiglottis, epiglottis will get closed when the food is getting inside, and epiglottis will get open when the food is not present and the air has to get inside. Okay, so that was about the pharynx. Next is now, after pharynx we have got larynx. Okay, so regarding that larynx, the larynx is basically a structure. Larynx is a structure which is responsible for producing the voice, and hence it is called as voice box. Okay, it is also called as voice box or voice producing organ. Now it is present in the anterior part of trachea. So we know what is trachea. It's a tubular structure which takes the air from the lungs to air from the nasal cavity or pharynx to the
trachea, and from trachea it will be taken to the lungs. Okay, so this larynx is present in the anterior part of trachea, and so it is considered as a modification of trachea. You can write it down. It is considered as a modification of trachea. So what is larynx? Larynx is a type of modification of trachea. The thyroid cartilage is, now they are basically of three different type of, you can say, it's a bone-like structure which is composed of two cartilage. It's basically composed of two cartilage, or we can say total we have got 5 cartilages. We have got 5 different type of cartilages by which this larynx is made. You can see over here, this larynx is basically made up of 5 type of cartilages. The first one is the thyroid cartilages. This is the thyroid cartilages. Okay, this brown one. So the first one is thyroid cartilages. The characteristic of thyroid cartilages are this. First of all, these are the largest cartilage of larynx. These are the largest cartilage of larynx. So you should be noting down what is the largest cartilage of the larynx is the thyroid cartilage. Okay. Second, this is composed of hyaline cartilage. You have got what are the different types of cartilage. So here it is responsible for formed by the hyaline cartilage. Okay. Next, it is a C-shaped in nature. So you can see it is not covering the whole trachea. It is basically just covering the anterior and the posterior part. It mainly consists in the posterior part. Okay. So it is basically not the one which is covering the trachea totally. So it is C-shaped in nature. Okay. Now ventrally it is broad and laterally it is narrow. So here you can see, when we say ventrally it is broad properly, but at the lateral side it will be narrow. Okay, so this cartilage complete almost ventral surface and little part of each. So you can see this will be responsible for covering the almost of all of the anterior part. So in the males of human ventral surface of thyroid makes a process called as Adam's apple. So we can see the Adam's apple is also present over in the case of humans particularly. So it is also a type of modification. So what is about thyroid cartilage? This is the cartilage which is mainly found. There are 5 cartilage found in the main larynx. The first one is the thyroid cartilage. It is largest and C-shaped. Half of them is basically enwrapping this trachea. So composed of hyaline cartilage. Epiglottis is basically the present. It's basically the structure, flap-like structure present anteriorly to this larynx, which is present anterior to the larynx and composed of elastic cartilage, as you know. Okay, in humans the process is called as Adam's apple. In humans it is called as Adam's apple. Okay, next is coracoid cartilage. This is the coracoid cartilage. The yellow one is the coracoid cartilage. Okay, now it is also hyaline cartilage. And it's something, it's showing a ring-like structure, it's ring shape. So we can say it forms a complete ring. So you can see it is here and it's also seen over here. So it is forming a complete ring. Okay, now it is just present below the thyroid cartilage. So here you can see it is just present below so this is the thyroid cartilage. This brown one is the thyroid cartilage. And just below this we have got this coracoid cartilage. Okay, now below the thyroid cartilage we have them. Okay, next one is the arytenoid cartilage. What is arytenoid cartilage? It is again a paired cartilage. Here you can see there's blue in color. This is a blue in color. Okay, so arytenoid cartilage, they are arytenoid cartilage. These are again 2 in number, and so we can say they are paired in nature. Composed of mainly hyaline cartilage. Is also composed of mainly hyaline cartilage. Okay, and it is present and these are the pyramidal shape. Here you can see the pyramidal shape. Okay, and the pyramidal shape and are present just above the coracoid cartilage. So they are just present above the yellow colored coracoid cartilage. Okay, and dorsal surface and the remaining part of which lateral surface of larynx. Okay, so in the end of this vocal cord is attached with arytenoid and another end is attached to the thyroid cartilage. So we have got vocal cord present over here in the larynx, which is responsible for producing the sound. So there are 2 ends of this vocal cord. The one of this end is basically present in this attached to the arytenoid cartilage, and the second end is present attached to the thyroid cartilage. Okay, so that was about the That was about the arytenoid cartilage. Next is cartilage of centroni. And the cartilage of centroni is basically the cartilage of centroni is again 2 in number and paired. It is also 2 in number and paired. And hyaline cartilage, it will be pyramid shape above coracoid cartilage in dorsal of the larynx. So now next one is the cartilage of centroni is again paired. Now all of the other cartilages were basically hyaline cartilage, but this is the elastic in nature. This is elastic cartilage. This is something which we have to note it down. So these are the elastic cartilage which will be responsible for flexibility, and this will be forming node-like structure at the end of arytenoid. So here you can see at the end of these arytenoids they will be forming the node-like structures. And they are the one which is responsible for protecting the epiglottis. We know what is epiglottis. It's a flap-like structure responsible for covering this glottis, and epiglottis will be protected by this cartilage. And other one is the other cartilages. Apart from all these cartilages, there are some other cartilages like cuneiform and the corniculate cartilages, which will be playing different roles in this larynx structure, and this function. Now the last one is the vocal cord. Now let us see what is vocal cords. So vocal cords are basically these are the fibers, or these are the specifically type of structures which are responsible for formation of noise, formation of sound. They are one which are responsible for formation of sound. Now these are of two types, that is anterior vocal cords and the posterior vocal cords. So anterior vocal cords and the posterior vocal cords. So when we say anterior vocal cords are basically composed of only membranes, and these are called as false vocal cord. You have to note it down. The anterior vocal cords are basically called as false vocal cord. It means they are not helping in phonation. Basically it means they are not responsible for producing the sound. So these are the anterior vocal cord which are formed by the membranes, which are composed of membranes and mostly pink in color, and do not create a sound or do not produce sound. Hence we can say they do not take a part in the phonation. Next is the posterior pair, and this posterior pair is the one which is actually true vocal cord. Posterior pair of the vocal cord is actually the true vocal cord, and we can say them as a true vocal cord. Now these are the one which will be producing the sound. Why? Because they are responsible for producing the sound. Now they are yellow in color, and usually they will be relaxed position. Usually they will be in the relaxed position, and hence we can say they will not be producing any sound. So during the relaxed position, they will not be producing any sound. But when they got contracted, the contraction of these laryngeal muscles, the muscles which are basically present in larynx are called as laryngeal muscles. So under the relaxation period, they will be not producing any sound, right? But when they will get contracted, this laryngeal muscles will get contracted, and this will be stretching the cords. This will be stretching this cord, and this stretching of cord will be producing the voice. When a expiration, or we can say when we carry out the expiration, what will happen? This contraction of laryngeal muscle will occur, and this will be responsible for stretching of cord, and this will produce the laryngeal voice. So that was about the vocal cord, true vocal cord. This is called as true vocal cord. And this center was started from the Neanderthal man. This was started from the Neanderthal man. Next is how the sound production occurs. So these are the two types of vocal cord. You can see this is a vocal cord relaxed in structure. These are when they stretched. When they are stretched, they will be carrying out the formation of the sound. They will be responsible for formation of sound. Next, they are responsible for sound production. So sound production is basically done by this true vocal cord. And when the exhaled air is passing through these vocal cords, when this expired air will be passing through this vocal cord under pressure from the lungs, when the lungs will be expiring it with the pressure, the vocal cords are set into vibrations. They will start vibrating, and this vibration will be responsible for stretching of the vocal cord, which will produce the sound. And then the second is the pitch of sound. So the pitch of sound is determined by the tension of the vocal cords. So if there is a higher tension of the vocal cord, it will be producing the higher pitch, and if there is a lower pitch of vocal cord, lower tension or lower stress on the vocal cord, it will be producing the lower pitch. Quality of voice. The quality of voice will be depending on the resonators. Which resonators are the different structures present in the buccal cavity and the whole respiratory tract, which will be manipulating the sound, and basically creating different types of sound. Okay, so this quality of voices depends on the resonators present in the respiratory tract, and mostly these resonators are above the larynx, like pharynx, mouth, buccal cavity, and paranasal sinuses. These are different resonators. Okay, along with this we have got quality of sound as well. Quality of sound will be controlled by the muscles of soft palate, tongue, floor of mouth, cheeks, lips, and jaws, and etc. So these are the different types of different structures, different functions of the larynx. Okay, so it will be responsible for sound production, generating a specific pitch of sound and quality of voice. So that's all what we have done. So we have done mainly the first of all the introduction of respiration, steps of respiration, 3 steps, that is external, internal, and again the cellular respiration. Then we have seen the different organs associated with the respiration in different animals. Okay, and afterwards we have seen the human respiratory system, which includes 2 parts, that is respiratory tract and the lungs. And in the case of respiratory tract, we start with the nasal cavity, and then we have done the pharynx and then the larynx. So in the next lecture we'll be starting with the trachea and then the structure of lungs, and then we will be discussing the functioning of the lungs, okay, to carry out the breathing. That's all for the day. So in the next lecture we'll be starting the new topic. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.